Hi guys, welcome back to OC Aviary. I'm Oliver, and in today's video we're going to look at essentials and different things to give the birds throughout the molt. We've got a few things lined up for today. We've got wild seed, what wild seeds I give my birds, and a few different precautions and things with that, and we're going to look at the red poles, enjoying those. We've got Baycox, how much of that to use on what birds. We've got multivitamins, we're going to mention colour feed, and we have germinated seed as well. So all things you're going to really need to give your birds, or almost essentials for the molt. So we'll get right to it, and I hope you enjoy today's video. So guys, we're at one of my local spots today for getting the live and the wild seed for the birds. So we're going to collect a few different things today, and we're going to get it in for some of the smaller finches. Really, we're talking the red poles, the siskins, and the gold finches, which are most likely going to be interested. So we're going to go in here now. I've got some bags in my bag and some cutters and some gloves, and we're going to take a look at what there is, and we'll collect some things for the birds. Okay, so here I've found some curly dock, and what this is again a wild food. We've got quite a few seeds on it there now. This is something I've given to my red poles over the past few years, and they've absolutely loved it. Now, I do think this is probably going to help on enhancing the colour, and something which is interesting with this is obviously the coloration of this is almost red, so I'm hoping that even though it is slightly dry, that this red coloration has to come from somewhere. I'm kind of thinking that this could have a good effect on the colour feeding. I'm not too sure, so we're going to try it for some of the adult cockbirds, and I'm going to give it the normal birds, as I think they have the best chances of actually getting this and you know, taking it into their system to go red. Perhaps it's something linnets might feed on in the wild for colour, but I don't know. So this is one of the things, and that's curly dock. Okay, so next we have some pine, and these are pine cones, obviously from a pine tree. The only birds that are going to be interested in these are going to be the crossbills. They're fresh, they're all green rather than the hard brown ones, so plenty of goodness in these. They're actually harder than the other ones as well, so plenty of moisture, and really going to help keep the crossbills occupied. So I'm going to gather a few of these, and the crossbills will absolutely love them. Okay, so then we have meadow sweet. I'm going to collect some of this for the birds. Thankfully, it's not really blossomed yet, other than at the tops. So there's plenty of these little seeds, which hopefully the birds will love. So next, we've got some rowan berries here, obviously on the rowan tree. Not many finches are that bothered about these, like the red poles and what, but the bullfinches absolutely love them. So I'm going to take just a few. I'm going to leave many for the wild birds, and considering I've only got 3 bullfinches, it's not worth taking more than the need. So I'm going to take just another bunch, and that'll be it for the rowan berries for the bullfinches. So now we're back at the bird room from today's pickup of the wild seed. So we're going to get that in for the birds, but just before we do that, just want to give you a precaution, is to make sure wherever you gather your wild seed from, first you check that whatever seed you are gathering is safe for the birds, and it's simple as a Google search is such and such poisonous to birds. And if you don't know what it is, then Google has a scan, and you can just scan that and it will show you. Otherwise you can use books, but make sure you don't give your birds anything that's poisonous, anything that could cause them problems. I always make sure I go for the safe bets and just stick to the stuff that I know the birds can eat, and don't really want to be taking chances. Now secondly, make sure when you are gathering wild seed, and this could be stuff for this time of year in the molt, or it could be at the beginning of the breeding season when you're looking to collect your dandelions, make sure that they aren't treated with any pesticides or weed killers, because if you do, the birds ingest that, it will kill them. So please make sure that the stuff is clean that you're gathering, and really all that means is keep your eye on it, monitor it, and check for any signs of them suddenly all dying in a large patch. And just make sure you know it. If you can grow it in your garden, even better. But for me, because I can't really do that, I go out and I know places where it isn't treated, so it's safe to give to my birds. So we've got the curly dock and the meadow sweet. Just to keep it together, got a rubber band at the top. So let's get it into the red poles. up is multivitamins. So I generally give Mutivit, which is Versalaga's one. However, I have just run out of that, so I'm currently using Omnivit just because some vitamins are better than others, and I've got some Mutivit on order. So vitamins are really important during the molt, and you need to give your birds vitamins if they are to get through the molt. Pretty much, 9 times out of 10 without them they're going to struggle. So vitamin A is really important in feather production for the brightness and the feather health. You've got vitamin D, that's very similar in that they need that for the brightness and having a healthy feather. Without vitamin B, the birds will have terrible feather quality, so they do need that supplemented as well. And there's an awful lot of things go into it. So multivitamins are very important. Make sure you give your birds multivitamins during the molt from the start all the way to the finish. I give it them in their water, so we're pretty much going at least 4 days a week for that, and then maybe 3 days a week fresh water, or that be colour feed or something else. But either way, make sure you are giving multivitamins to your birds. It's really important. So one source of the vitamins is, of course, a vitamin supplement. So another source of those vitamins is actually germinated seed or soak seed. This is super important when molting out your birds and throughout the breeding season anyway. I give them germinated seed the whole year round because they have so many good health benefits. They're really good for the birds anyway, contain loads of vitamins, loads of minerals, and an awful lot of important things the birds rely on to survive. So during the molt, I'm always giving them some germinated seed. And not only is it germinated seed, but it's also got some peas. Peas are obviously really good for the birds, contain all sorts of different things in them that the birds wouldn't usually get from a lot of the hard seed diets. So I give them a mix of about 50-50 almost of the germinated seed and the peas. I put it in the freezer, and then we'll just do that, and we'll just get some germinated seed going around every few days to keep them with a constant supply of it. It's going to be great for the birds, really good for the feathers, loads of vitamins, and it's going to keep the birds happy. So I just put that into a little drawer, just like a little pot almost, just here. They've already eaten what I put in this morning, so I'll fill that up again, obviously. That's just time permitting. If you can't do that, then don't worry. But I try and give them at least one of these mounted every single morning. The birds absolutely love it. So that's the next thing, is germinated seed. So then the last of the supplements and things to feed the birds and get into their system is Baycox. Baycox we've spoken about already in previous videos, like episode 18 of Breeding British Birds. We covered a lot of different things with molting, and I thought we'd make a video today on a bit more about that, a bit more in depth and essential and very important things you need to give the birds. So next is Baycox. So this is 2.5% Baycox. This is from Merca Systems. That's where I get it from in Portugal. Great service by those guys anyway. So this is really important that you give it to the birds. The recommended dose is 1 ml per litre for most finches and canaries and things like that. So everything in here and in the other bird rooms and in the flights gets 1 ml per litre once per month for 4 days straight, and that's in their water obviously. So this is really important for them because it does keep the coccidiosis at bay, stops them from going light. However, it is important that I do mention, with green finches you do need a slightly higher dose. So what I'll do is, when a green finch is just about to be weaned from its parents, I'm going to give it a dose of 3 ml per litre, and that's obviously in their water, so the parents get it as well, because it's going to help that when those birds are weaned away from their parents, then it's going to just try and help reduce that stress, because really when they are stressed is when they're most likely to then go light, if they are sort of overrun with the coccidiosis and about to be lost. So I give 3 ml per litre, and that's only for a few days again, but do try and keep it slightly lower and raise it, so they'll get that for 3 or 4 days before they're separated from the parents. Then 2 weeks later I might give them 2 ml and then back up to 3, just to make sure that everything's all right. But for the adult green finches, and especially when they're molting, 3 ml per litre 4 days per month is what I've found has worked best for me, and I've not lost any youngsters yet. So I'm not going to hold my breath on that because, yeah, don't want to jinx it. So we've touched wood. So it's worked for me. It's worked for me last year, worked for me this year. So I'm going to stick to that 3 ml per litre. So also during the molt, it's important to maintain and improve feather quality where possible. We obviously want to make sure that the birds are in top health, especially through the molt and as we go through the shows, but really you should be keeping your birds in top health all year. So I use a few things when it comes to mite. Mite can really affect feather quality. They can, you know, if there's too much mite, it will kill the bird. It could cause feather cysts. If too much, and that's mainly in the dense feather birds. If the birds are constantly sort of irritated in an area, pulling at it, injuring themselves almost, and then you get feathers growing the wrong way. So anyway, Frontline is something I use now. This doesn't have a recommended dose by you know, any veterinary professional yet. But it is important, and a lot of people use it. Remember, with this Frontline Spray, it's the flea sort of repellent. So this is not to be ingested by the birds. This is to put onto the birds. So what I do is I'll spray some of this into a little glass dish like that. I've got a drop-in pipette here. I'll fill it full of it, and then we'll get the bird, flip them over. We'll blow just above the tail to the preen gland, and we'll drop one little bit of Frontline, just one drop on the preen gland of the bird, and that then hopefully, and it has so far for me, worked nicely. So that's Frontline. That's with mite prevention really on the birds themselves. Then we have S76. Now you can use this for an awful lot of things like air sac mite and sort of internal mite, but it also works for outside mite, and that's, yeah, well, that's that. So this contains ivermectin at 0.8 grams per litre, so it is a very low dose, but this is great for obviously worming, well, it is worming the birds, but also lice and mite treatment, and it just comes through the skin, and it does have effect on the mite, and it does work. I've used it a few times before. Mainly I'm going for other things, but it does work, and there's no reason not to use it. So for canaries and finches and what have you, it's about 2.5 ml per litre of S76. So that's something else to try. And then finally, when it comes to sort of cleaning out cages, I use Clean and Clear Check Mite in a spray bottle, and I'll spray that around all the cages, give the cages a good wipe down, disinfect, and then just before the birds are sort of going back in, the cage is set up, I'll just spray it in the corners where the mite are most likely to be hiding and in most affected areas. That's not something really you want to put on the birds. I mean, you can spray it and mist it over them. I've not really bothered doing that. I'd rather clean the cages, give them something like the S76 they can ingest to come through them, and then the Frontline just on the outside rather than spray, just because I don't want to give them too much of a high concentration that could affect them. And then it's also diatomaceous earth. This works great, so when I'm cleaning out a cage, I'll just scatter some of that on the bottom and then newspaper over the top, because the mite will generally be between that layer. So that's worked nicely for me. And then the last thing for the molt, and it's kind of an obvious one, this is baths. We've spoke about this quite a few times before, but for maintaining feather quality, keeping the birds happy and as less, you know, stress-free as possible, get your baths on. I pretty much have my baths on every day for all of the birds. With, you know, maybe one day it'll be half of this shed, the next day it'll be the other half, and then we'll just keep rotating that. For the birds in the flights, they've always got access to baths. Although the ones that are being colour fed, I'll just put a bath in, leave it for 2 or 3 hours and then take it out. I'll do that each day, so they are taking the colour feed. For the canaries, they've got baths on constantly. Just really important for maintaining feather quality and de-stressing the birds, so make sure you have your baths on as well. Anyway guys, that does bring us to the end of this week's video, so I hope you've enjoyed it and found some useful tips for molting your birds out. So if you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please smash the like button so I can see that you guys are enjoying it. Hit the subscribe button down below so you can follow along. We're nearly at 5,000 subscribers, so please subscribe. And anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.